It's a tradition in February, of course, to talk about the topic of love. And I know that those of you that are not in romantic relationships, always this time of year, you start to cringe. But I want to tell you that you're safe because our theme, though it is on the wings of love, L-O-V-E, we're talking about on the wings of divine love. So each week this month, we're going to look at different aspects of the L-O-V-E of the divine. And the first week today, we're talking about living in light and laughter. Next week, that's the L. Next week, the O, omnipresence, omnipotence, and omniscience. Big words, huh? But the meaning is much simpler than that. Diane will tell you all about it. The next week is V for vision and vitality. And the last week is E for enlightened enthusiasm. Today is living and laughter. There's this guy from Tennessee, and he died, and he went to hell. And the devil put him to work breaking rocks in the hot sun with a sledgehammer. And to make it worse, he turned up the heat, turned up the humidity. And after a few days, he went to check on this guy from Tennessee to see if he was suffering sufficiently. And so the devil is aghast because the guy's happy. He's happily swinging his hammer and whistling Dixie. And the devil walks up to me and says, I don't understand this. I've turned up the heat and I've turned up the humidity. Why are you so happy? And the guy from Tennessee says, with a big smile, he looks at the devil and he says, this is great. It reminds me of August in Tennessee. Hot and humid, a great place to work. It reminds me of home. It's fantastic. The devil was extremely perplexed. And he walks away to ponder this for a little while. And so he decides to drop the temperature way down and throw down a driving rain and tornadoes. And he says, this will do it. Soon everything was wet and muddy mess and slogging through this mud and debris from all the houses that have been blown down and everything is this guy from Tennessee pushing this wheelbarrow full of rocks. And again, the devil says, how can you be so happy in these conditions? And the guy replies, this is great. It's just like April in Tennessee. It reminds me of working out in the yard and planting. Oh, I love it. And the devil is, now by this time, he is just, what am I going to do here? I'm completely baffled. And he's just more determined to make this guy from Tennessee suffer. And so he makes the temperature plummet way down. And suddenly, it's blanketed in ice and snow. And the devil that's confident, he knows this is going to make the guy from Tennessee unhappy, finally. But he's still aghast when he sees the guy. And the guy from Tennessee is dancing. He's singing. He's twirling his sledgehammer in the air. He says, how can you be so happy? Don't you know that it's 40 below zero? Jumping up and down, the guy from Tennessee throws a snowball at the devil, yelling, hell's frozen over! Hell's frozen over! This can only mean that the Titans won the Super Bowl!
Well, that's all the time we have, folks.
Yeah, okay. I thought that was a good Super Bowl Sunday joke. And you all laughed. I was hoping you would. Light and laughter is what we're talking about today. Light and laughter and love. So here's a premise for today's work today with light and laughter. Humor and lightness are gifts of God's love. Our ability to laugh in the face of challenging circumstances and have a light touch on life are indicators of how much we're living into and from this love. I'll say that again because this is really important. Humor and lightness are gifts of God's love. Our ability to laugh in the face of challenging circumstances and have a light touch with life are indicators of how much we are living into and from this love. And so our plan for today is to shine light and laughter in places that could use a big dose of this divine love. And we know that in our own lives, in the lives of those around us, and just look out at the world. We can use some of this love in the world. So, are you ready for that? Yeah. Ready for a little love? Yeah. There's a line in a song by Leonard Cohen. I love this song. And it goes, ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. I love that lyric. Of course, I'm from Nashville. I'm a songwriter, you know. It's like, there's some, I would change those lyrics. I'd tweak them just a little bit. I'd make one slight but significant change in it. Adjustment to those lyrics, and I'm going to explain where that adjustment would be with this story. It's a story that's true story, and it speaks to the meaning of those lyrics and the power of light and lightness and laughter as told by Heather Martin. She tells of a young man who had cancer in his leg, and to save his life, he had to have the leg amputated. And this was extremely difficult, as you might imagine, for this young man to handle because he was young, he was fit, he was athletic, and now he was just with one leg. And he went through a deep, dark night of the soul. But while he was in physical rehab, physical rehab facility, they also offered emotional rehab. And the one thing that helped him a whole lot was art therapy. And of the drawings that he had created in this art therapy, there was one of a flower vase, with a big crack in it. And that was how he saw himself, as damaged, cracked, no good to anyone, no use anymore. And so I don't know, some of us know someone that ever felt that way. You may not have lost a limb, but you may have felt flawed, damaged, cracked, no good to anyone, no use at all. And that's how this young man felt. But he persevered in his physical and emotional healing, and he made great strides in both. And this story reminded me of my friend I used to play music with, and Randy used to, Cactus. Who was married to Winona Judd, who lost his leg in a motorcycle accident 3 years ago. And he was told that he mangled his hand really bad, and he was told he would never play drums again. Well, that was his challenge, and within 3 months, he was on the road playing with Winona Judd after they told him he could probably never play drums again. So, there is something within us that can overcome those challenges and find the light and the laughter in life. Years after this young man and the story's healings, he returned to the place where he recovered, going there as a compassionate friend in order to help out and support those people at this rehab facility that were experiencing these similar challenges to the one that he had overcome. And he was drawn into the room of a young woman who had also had cancer. And to save her life, she had to have a double mastectomy. And he went into her room and her face was turned and she was staring towards the wall. And without even a gesture or a word of gesture, he could feel her despair, her heaviness coming from her as he entered the room. And there was no acknowledgement that he had arrived, but he did know that she had to have heard him come in. So he spoke to her and he tried to connect with her, and she was just not available. She wouldn't talk, wouldn't respond in any way at all. She just lay there with her face turned toward the wall. Suddenly he had an idea and he decided to take a chance. So he turned on the radio in her room and turned the volume way up. And then he pulled off his prosthetic leg and he starts to dance. And she slowly turned to him to see what in the world was going on. And she eyed him suspiciously for a few moments. And then she said, "Well, I suppose if you can dance, I can sing." And she started to do just that. And that was the beginning of her road to recovery, both physically and emotionally. And of course, the story goes on, and you know where it's going. They were drawn to each other and down the altar, and they were married. And sometime later, and that supposedly is the end of the story, but it's not the final point of the story. The real point is on that same day, he made a visit to the rehab facility where he did the art therapy. And he visited that therapist that had helped him through his dark night of the soul. And he was looking through some of the drawings that he had left there. And among them, he saw the one of the cracked vase, the one that symbolized his brokenness and his uselessness. And in that moment, he realized that that drawing was incomplete. So he grabbed a yellow marker and started to draw bright yellow streaks coming through and from the crack, because he saw clearly that without that crack, he never would have become the man that he was on this day. Ring the bells that still can ring, forget your perfect offering. There's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. So my revision to that lyric would be, that's how the light gets out. Wait a minute, that doesn't rhyme, does it? Okay. Never mind. So when we realize that there's a light inside of us that's first planted there by the divine in each and every one of us, by the love of the divine, that's when we can lighten up about life. Then we can let go of having our perfect offerings. That was my problem for a lot of my life, is I thought all my offerings had to be perfect in life. I could never measure up. And rather know that we are already perfect, whole and complete, filled with that divine love, then we can bring light, lightness, and laughter to our world. The modern fiction writer Jodi Picoult once said, "There's always going to be bad stuff out there. But here's an amazing, but here's the amazing thing. Light trumps darkness every time. You can stick a candle into the dark, but you cannot stick the dark into the light." So have you ever been in a place that's very, very dark and you light one candle and it brings light to the entire dark room? That's how powerful this light is. The same is true with the thought of divine love, of God's love. It's like a candle in a dark place of our lives. One thought of God's love or divine love can bring light and lightness to whatever circumstance in our lives that we're troubled by. One thought of God's love can bring forth lightness and light to our troubled cells in our body, causing them to relax and remember that perfect pattern of whole, complete, and perfect health that live at the core of these cells. One thought of God's love can bring lightness and light to our energetic vibration, our energy, our enthusiasm, causing us to attract rather than repel the good that life has to offer us. So whenever we experience any dark at all, we can light a candle in our lives through our thoughts of this divine love of which we are made of and a part of. The master teacher Jesus said, "Ye are the light of the world." Do you believe it? If you are the light, are you not the light fully and completely and bright right here and now in this present moment exactly as you are? Even if there is a perceived crack or two? Even if your offerings aren't perfect? In his book, Homesick for Heaven, it's one of Reverend Franklin's favorite books, Homesick for Heaven by Walter Starkey. Walter Starkey shares thoughts that he got from his mentor, Joel Goldsmith, and he wrote this. He says, "I am the light of the world and ever will be, and if you accept this teaching, you will shine as the noonday sun in which there is no darkness at all. I am the light and will not permit questions of why or wherefore. It accepts itself as the full radiance of the risen sun. I am the light, seeks not for light, health, wealth, success, progress, but knows that which I am seeking, I am. Sing with yourself morning, noon, and night. I am the life, the truth, the light. Let a song of joy and grateful recognition surge through your being and know that the divine being is your only being. This being is all-inclusive life, love, substance, law, and reality. Ye are the light of the world. As you rest in this consciousness, you will no longer find it necessary to overcome evil, destroy error, battle mortal mind. In and as the light, the darkness vanishes. Say with me, I am the light.
I am the light.
Say it with me again. I am the light.
I am the light.
Let's do it a third time for good measure. I am the light. I am the light. We are the light. We are light in the divine love. So in and as the light, the dark vanishes. So another little idea about light. Think about a lightning bug. Everybody love lightning bugs? Lightning bugs. Where do they come from? What's the story with lightning bugs? Here's this rather ordinary flying insect. But wait, it has a glow-in-the-dark rear end. Now that's light. That's funny. Yeah. What was God thinking about that? Shh. Science surely has many explanations for it. You know, that fluorescent fanny helps in mating and all sorts of stuff, you know. But what if God, when he was creating all the animals and everything, what if God came up with the idea that he would create this lightning bug just because he knew, or she knew, or it knew, that we would love it? We know that God gives us, or loves us enough to create everything that we need, right? So what if God just created this to make us happy, make us enjoy life, to be light, to lighten up. Perhaps they have a purpose after all. Perhaps they're a reminder that a creative God that has given all the gifts that we have wanted to just see us smile and lighten up with lightning bugs. I love lightning bugs. So from that smiling place of the lightning bug, center yourself within yourself. Go within. Close your eyes. And think of somebody, yourself or someone else that you know, that needs some light brought into their world, or some situation in the world that needs the light. And bring that image of a lightning bug to that situation. And just simply smile as you watch these lightning bugs in your mind. Just center yourselves in that joy and that lightness and that beauty. And then remember this note from the universe, which is otherwise known as a message from God to you. We know that God loves us enough to create all the things we need to survive, but could it be that it loves us so much it created some things just for us to enjoy? Perhaps lightning bugs have a purpose after all. No matter what your faith is or is not, no matter where in the world you are, I want you to know, even as you hear these words, I'm with you. Behind the eyes of every child and in the melody of every song, I'm the glimmer in the ice crystals, the rays in the sun, and the stars at night. And with each smile you see, every hug you receive, every laugh you hear, I'll be there, reaching out through another with blessing and good wishes. And all the time because of the divine love that I bestow on you. Because I've always loved you, and because I always will, and because this has been true and will be true every day of your life. And so it is.
So it is.